Welcome to the Wealthy Actor Podcast. I'm Valorie Hubbard, an industry veteran with 25 years dedicated to helping actors navigate the business side of their craft.
And I'm James Hallett, a fellow lifelong actor and coach, joining Valorie on this journey.
Here on The Wealthy Actor, we're diving deep into the stories and insights of actors from all walks of life.
We'll be unraveling the threads of success, failures, and everything in between.
So if you're ready to embark on a journey beyond the footlights, join us as we sit down with fascinating actors, industry experts, and thought leaders to uncover the secrets of becoming a truly wealthy actor. I'm Valorie Hubbard.
And I'm James Hallett.
And this is the Wealthy Actor Podcast, where the art of acting meets the business of building a truly prosperous life in the spotlight. Everyone, welcome to the Wealthy Actor Podcast. My name is Valorie Hubbard. I'm joined by my co-host,
James Hallett. Hi, Val. Nice to see
James.
you.
Do you see my new background? For you guys that are listening and not watching, I have a whole new background, all the pictures on the wall.
It's very colorful.
Thank you.
I really like it. And I know who and where you are.
Yes, good. All right, I'm going to introduce our guest today, Miss Katherine O'Day. She's an actor, a vocalist, a VO artist, and a model located in Los Angeles. She comes with training from one of the only schools backed by the Meisner estate, vocal training in multiple styles, as well as accent trained and proficiency in multiple musical instruments. She has auditioned for companies such as NBC Universal, Netflix, Disney, HBO, Paramount Plus, A24, and many more, all without an agent. She has auditioned for the Wicked movies, The Idol, Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies, and more, as well as Oscar-winning directors and producers multiple times through her career, with bookings including print modeling advertisements for Disney and Universal, and the lead Jackie in the stage play Mauritius with the Living Truth Theater. Welcome to our podcast, Katherine O'Day.
Hi.
Yay.
Yes.
I feel like your resume or what was your bio has so much going on. It's so rich and wonderful.
Yeah, it was hard to pair it. I mean, the and more for all of the different studios was really difficult to figure out what do I include. I could have kept going.
That's fantastic.
This is a case of someone jumping in the deep end. This is the ultimate case. Like, I can't even say, someone that's jumped in the deep end more that I've worked with, at any given point. Like, you literally jumped in the deep end. You're playing the biggest game possible. Like, you skipped the slot machines and you went right up to the $100,000 blackjack table.
Yep.
And you've been playing now for 9 years and you're going to hit. Like, you're going to hit soon. So how have you kept the momentum for 9 years to keep at this thing? I want to know, how have you kept that?
It's a really interesting question because I think that it can be multi-pronged, but I think I actually said this on a set recently, and the moment that I said it, and I've never had this happen to me before, and I swear this is a real story and not a and then everyone clapped type of thing, but I was on this set and I was talking about kind of the trials and tribulations that I'd gone through. And I offhandedly was like, acting is like Moldavite for your life. And everyone kind of stopped and turned around and all just started nodding their heads. And all of the actors in the room were like, I've never heard something that makes the most sense with our career. Because I'm of the belief that as actors, we have to be growing as people. And I think a lot of times being an actor holds a mirror to you of, hey, these are some things that you need to face, whether that be relationships, whether that be mental health. Like, there's so many things under the sun that you have to look at and say, you know what? No, if I want to keep going, I have to approach this. I have to look at this. And I think around year 4 or 5 of my career, I had that where I was finding that I was having a hard time with stuff because things were starting to trigger me and affecting me. And so I went and found out that I had severe PTSD. And so I got treatment for PTSD, and I'm in this position where obviously I'm not the most healed version of myself, but I know for a sheer fact that if I had not been in this industry, I don't think I would have been diagnosed with PTSD when I was. But the reason that I went and got the diagnosis was because I was like, no, something has to shift if I am going to be able to keep going. And I think a lot of it has been pivoting. Like, my entire career has been a pivot, right? Like, I started in 2017, 2018, and I graduated acting school during COVID. So that whole period of time that could have been me just auditioning, all of 2020, I had one audition. But I was pitching probably hundreds of times in that year because I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep pivoting anyway. I'm going to find something else. I'm going to find something that sparks joy. And also hobbies. I feel like hobbies are so crucial. Being a person outside of your work is crucial, especially with the long, arduous wait times and waiting periods. I picked up knitting and crocheting, and I've found it's made me a more interesting person at these events that I'm going to. I went to an event for Margot's Got Money Troubles the other day, and I was there and I was like, you guys, the crochet elements in Margot's Got Money Troubles was so cool. And I was able to talk about something that meant a lot to me and a hobby that meant a lot to me in a work setting. So I think there's a lot there, but I think that some of the biggest pieces of advice I have to people who are in that waiting game and like, how do you keep going? It's like, there's also little wins every now and again, right? Like, you're gonna get that email read that's gonna make you perk up and get really excited. There's that moment in audition where you're like, I feel like I can control fire with my hands right now. And holding on to those moments of like, this is where my power is. This is where I have the most fun. This is where I can truly be myself and grow as a person and learn. And if I hadn't done all these different things to, kind of fix my life, for a lack of a better term, I really believe that I, first of all, wouldn't still be in the industry. But second of all, I think that it's made me a cooler person overall.
I don't want to pry at all, but if there's anything deeper or worth talking about in the PTSD, is that something outside of the world of acting, or is that something, and how did you go about taking care of it? And how did you get the care you needed?
It was outside of the world of acting, and it had kind of followed me like a shadow for a lot of my life, but it wasn't until COVID that it actually woke up. I think there's a lot of people that probably relate to that. And I was in a position for the first time where I felt safe. And so my body was like, we don't know what to do with this information. I think a lot of it for me, it's funny because like, I already kind of knew I had some post-traumatic stress disorder stuff from other experiences, but I didn't realize just how deep it had gone. I didn't realize how much it had bled into my other relationships and even into my business work. I found that I was constantly seeking, and it wasn't good for my business. It wasn't good for me. And it started to present itself in dissociative, I don't even know if that's the right term, where I remember I was getting on an airplane. I was going over to London, and I'd never had problems at an airplane before. I'd never had any of those issues. And I had a panic attack on my way to London Heathrow. And I was like, there's something just absolutely wrong. Like, something is wrong. I don't know what it is, but something is wrong. And it was actually, ironically, through movies that I realized, oh, this might be something else. Because for a while I thought, oh, it's just anxiety. It'll clear up. And like, I would be self-taping scenes. Actually, there's a scene I can't stop thinking about it whenever I tell these stories. I was auditioning for a stage play here in LA, and I was having PTSD episodes, and I didn't know it at the time. And there are clips of me, I want to find them again because it was so interesting. There are clips of me in between the take trying not to cry my makeup off. And the whole time I'm just sitting there like, I have to get this in. This is due tomorrow. Like, the show goes on type of thing. I went and watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I was like, uh-oh, why do I relate so much to Baby Rocket? Why do I relate so much to that story? And I was weeping, like truly weeping. And the next day I had my PTSD diagnosis. And it was after I told them, hey, this piece of art really, spoke to me. And this was the theme in this art piece. And they were like, yeah, that's pretty much the nail in the coffin. You definitely have post-traumatic stress disorder and CPTSD. And when it came to treatment for me, I mean, I've been very, very privileged and very lucky to be able to have some of the resources to, because at the time, there was no option. I was having panic attacks that would last over 8 hours. I was not able to work, to function, like anything. And so I went through PTSD treatment. I went through a cognitive behavioral therapy route and was someone who was trained specifically in PTSD. I can't remember the name of it to save my life. There's a name for it. You go through like a few different programs, but the program that I went through was actually created for combat veterans. And so it was originally, I went through STAR, and then I believe it's called CPT. And I think because I had to do STAR, because I didn't have a lot of the coping skills to handle going through treatment, I went through STAR for probably about 2-3 months and then did PTSD treatment for about 4 months. So it took most of 2023, which was actually really good timing because nothing was happening. So it gave me kind of an opportunity to heal up, figure out what was going on, and it was really, really helpful for me.
I can relate. I've gone through PTSD also and, childhood trauma stuff. And it takes enormous courage to face it, to own it, because it can feel like, for anybody listening, like when you've gone through that stuff, it can feel like it's us and it's our fault. And so to take it on, to tackle it, to face it, to get the help you need takes tremendous courage, because it also means stepping beyond the place of it's my fault, I'm guilty, I should be ashamed, I could have stopped this from happening, like whatever it is, like whatever form it took. It takes a lot of courage to ask for the help we need. So I salute you for that. That's really powerful.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Okay. So you said it was slow in 23. So when did you get back on the horse of really, were you doing pitching all through that? Like, were you always pitching? No.
A lot of my trauma, ironically, comes from the fear of being seen and perceived. So I literally would have panics where I couldn't send an email without being terrified of the response back. And what was very funny was when I started pitching again, I got bit pretty much immediately. And like, what's so funny about that is I don't get bit very often. Like, it's very rare that I get bit. So when I do get bit, I'm always like, ugh. And yeah, I got a super nasty.
Can we just clarify what get bits mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's something I say all the time, and people are like, what are you talking about? So
yeah,
tell us your get bit. Tell us this get bit.
Okay. So there's funny examples of getting bit, and then there's this one. So this one, it was, and it's funny because I've talked to people about this person after this, and they were like, oh yeah, they're the worst. So it's not surprising, but essentially it was for a theater show here in LA. It's a role that it's actually very funny near the end. Basically, I was very on brand for it. It was Ophelia and Hamlet. And I was like, yeah, so that's me. So I immediately go to pitch for it. I'd pitched to this office before. This was not the first time I had pitched to them. This was not the first time that I had done the stuff that I've done. And I've always been very respectful. I've never, emailed them, spam emailed them. I've maybe pitched to them once every 6 months to a year, right? So I shoot them this pitch. Again, perfect for this role. I send my follow-up, and I get an email that also has the casting associate CC'd on it. And it basically is like, this is the most disrespectful thing. How dare you email us? Like we put these
It is
audition
funny.
sites. Oh, it gets better, Val. It gets better. So they're like, how dare you? You know, it's so disrespectful for you to reach out to us like this. And again, I've been emailing these people on and off for years. It's been like 3-4 years since I've been emailing these people. And they literally end it by being like, we're gonna give you the audition, but don't ever email us again.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. Like,
oh my
like
God.
I always do this. And for you guys that I will narrate what I'm doing, but it's like they hit you. You are such a bad actor. Here's an audition. I have seen that so many times. It's like this thing that they have to feel like they can keep us down on the farm. Like they can have that power over us. And it's just like it's laughable. It's like, why is it disrespectful? I had someone get bit after they sent a beautiful thank you note.
What?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, like really hard bit, to where their agent dropped him. And the casting director said they'd never work again. Meantime, a year later, they'd been called in like 5 times by the casting director and they got a way better agent. So yeah. Yeah. That's so funny. That's what being bit means, right?
Yeah.
So you got bit pretty hard, and then what happened?
I lived and I was okay. I think that's kind of one of those things where you have to be like, I'm still alive, I'm still okay. I mean, since then, I've probably auditioned hundreds of times, so just there's some evidence there. I mean, and I've gone in for big, like way bigger offices than theirs, so this is not like a huge office that's like, I'm going to blacklist you from all the big places.
So they couldn't do that anyway. Like, but that's just unrealistic. If someone called me, don't like her because I don't like her.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Katherine, from your perspective, you send an email, you get bit, you experience whatever feelings you experience. How did you recuperate to continue? What's the movement? What's the movement inside? I'm curious about this because that's the work that I do. Is I do imagery and dream work, transform and heal. So what's the mechanism inside, or what's the how do you handle that?
I really try to practice a technique called mindful self-compassion. You probably heard of it, James, mindful self-compassion. And that definitely has helped me a lot. And I always say mindful self-compassion is kind of like the Jedi mind trick of psychology, because you don't even realize it's going to work. You're like, this is so stupid. I don't think this is going to work. And then all of a sudden you're like, I love and accept myself completely. Like it just kind of hits you all at once. And I will say, this is probably a toxic answer, but also I do submit whenever I feel like I'm right for their rules out of spite. Like, I'm like, no, you're not gonna stop seeing my face because you bit me. Because, like, you gave me the audition. So, clearly, you still wanted to see me for this. Like, so, and again, I'm not, like, just submitting for everything they do. But there are times where, like, if I'm really right for something, I'll just submit for it. Just, hey, here's my name and my face again. They probably forgot. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
That's the thing, too, is these people that are super mean and rude and disrespectful, this is like another Tuesday for them. So, for me, it's going to be with me maybe my whole career. Who knows?
Yeah.
But for this person, like, they've probably yelled at 100 actors in the past month.
Yeah.
Like,
or the people that work for them. I mean, that's why Sigda Miguel, the famous casting director, does what he does, because he worked for, Meg Simon, who was notoriously a bitch and crazy. Right. And so, and he saw her behavior and decided that he wasn't going to do that.
Yeah.
Right. And so, their behavior, other people see their behavior when they act inappropriately.
Yeah.
And I think, one thing I learned very much the last few years is haters hate. Right. And if they're doing that to you, they're doing that to their husbands, their wives, their children, that's who they be. Right. And so, because how you do anything is how you do everything.
Exactly.
And also, I mean, this is such a powerful conversation. As you said, Katherine, like for them, it's just another Tuesday. And our sensitivity as artists, our attunement to other people, to a room, to how people feel, to language, to the effect we have on other people, like our attunement to that is what makes us gifted, right? This is what makes us have presence. They may not have any attunement to that. And so it's so important. I think it's so important to remind ourselves it's not about me,
Yeah.
right? It's not about me, like, and to find a way to celebrate the risk taking and to hold that as the success rather than to dwell in the penalty,
Yeah.
the
I think
punishment.
also, I think a huge part of it too is like, I always take situations like this. Like I've gone through a lot of stuff in my life, and a lot of it has not been good. A lot of it's been very negative. And one of the biggest things that I've always kind of had the mantra of is I refuse to have others feel the way that other people have made me feel that's negative. I refuse to do that. I refuse to put other people in a situation out of projection that I have already gone through, right? And so I feel like it's also made me way more empathetic because I know for me, I'm very careful about especially words that I say to people in regards to like any sort of criticism. Because of these bites, refuse to give unsolicited advice. It's very, very rare that I give unsolicited advice because I think it's ridiculous and we're not going to listen to it. If you're not asking for the advice and it's not someone you trust, you're not going to hear it most of the time, right? So I've learned so many life lessons also from being bit, where I'm not going to be that person. And because I've seen how this can make someone like that, I'm going to course correct and do whatever it is I have to do so that I don't become that.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting about what you just said? Because I actually was thinking this very thing today.
Really?
It's hard not to get into the anger pool with someone, right? Especially when they're saying something that's so outrageous or to repeat behavior, what they're doing back to you. That is like a difficult thing to not to do. I mean, it's very apparent in the Facebook wars. Like, just like, let's take an example. A 1-year-old baby was killed, by a police officer. Don't read the comment section,
Nope.
right? It will make you want to rip your guts out and but you can go in there. I went in there and you can say terrible things back to those people, right? Most of them being bots, but it's like, it doesn't make it better for you. And like you said, if they are that person, they're not going to hear it. It's not going to change anything. What's going to change something is calling your congressman or calling your senator or doing things that are going to make a difference or helping someone, giving things to people that they need, so I think it's like, oh, okay, why am I getting, because I learned that lesson with the haters on social media, because it's like, why that person, that's what they do. And so you're like, well, maybe I should do that back to them.
No.
And I think you learn from that and we grow from that if we really look in the mirror and say, yeah, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person that even thinks that way. And thank God I'm not.
So at this moment in your career, what are the things that you are excited about? What's on the plate? Are the things that you're tracking or, stepping towards?
I mean, yeah, always. Always. I think it's interesting. I was telling someone this, and it sounds really weird to say in any perspective, really. But I have this feeling that the ascent is about to happen. Like I can feel that something's on the horizon. Every time that I felt like something's about to happen, it always does. Like if I feel like something good's about to happen, it almost always does. If something bad's about to happen and I feel it on the horizon, it always does. I can feel it's like literally a physical ascent sometimes happening. And it's kind of just, I'm in I think the final stages of the waiting room, and it's kind of excruciating. So I'm trying to kind of keep my head afloat and stay as positive as possible, I'm also trying really, really hard to keep up with books that are being adapted. So that's a big thing that I've been doing as of late, because like I'm already a reader. So keeping up to date with stuff that I'm really, really good for. Like I recently did a scene from the novel Yesteryear by Carol Claire Burke. If you all have not read it, it is a book that's going to be studied in universities. Like I know it will be. Like it will be in multiple different studies that you will study this. Gender studies, religious studies. I honestly also think anthropology. Like it is such an incredible novel. It's also her first novel, which is unbelievable. But the whole time I was like, I have to tape scenes from this. Recently when I saw Valorie in person, I had just come back from taping a scene from that book. And I had sprayed my hair like this bright hot pink and somehow had gotten most of it out of my hair by then, but my scalp was entirely pink the entire time. I've been really loving picking things from books, adapting them, and having fun with it that way whenever I'm not busy. Because again, I'm at the place in my career, I think I'm crossing 80 auditions for the year this week. So I'm busy. I got a lot going on, but I'm also keeping things on the horizon that are really big projects that I've been tracking for quite some time. I have one project right now that I've been tracking for 2-3 years now, and it's starting to heat up, and I can't really talk about what that is, but I have a really good feeling about that one. I also just have been trying to read all the book to movie, because like Amazon Prime Video right now is adapting so much. I mean, we just got off campus. We're going to be getting Icebreaker, I think, in the next few years. So keeping up to date with those has been kind of a big thing that I've been up to, and trying to use my eyeballs to read as much as I can whenever I have time. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit of what's going on. Behind the scenes, I'm pitching a lot. I'm recording scenes, recording clips. If I don't have anything to share in my newsletter, I am finding ways to do that. I've been going to a lot more for your consideration events as of late, so that's also taken a lot of my time. So a lot is on the horizon, a lot is going on, and I'm now also creating a list of people that look like they could be my family members at a family reunion, so that whenever there is something to pitch for that has them in it, I just know automatically, oh, they need a daughter for, Michelle Pfeiffer. I could do that. Or they need a daughter for Amy Adams. I could do that, right? So that's a lot of planning and prepping and all that jazz by Carol Claire Burke.
That's so exciting. So yeah. And all this without an agent.
Yeah. And I just
and now
got
people are
represented
calling
commercially.
you, right? You've had people call you now.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the big ones, I mean, a lot of the big ones know who you are now, right?
I literally went, it's so funny. I have no idea who this person was originally, but I went to the Cinegear Expo at Universal, where like they have all of that is a great networking event, because everyone there is like directors, writers, producers, cinematographers, and I am there, and we're at this networking event, and we're talking, and a woman comes up to me, and she's like, "It's so good to see you. How have you been?" And I'm pretty recognizable. Like, I usually have my cane on me. Like, I'm not someone that gets mistaken very often. And she was like, "No, I'm sure that I've seen you." And, like, it's things like that are starting to happen. Or, like, I went into a room, I think this was a few years ago now, but I had been auditioning for a casting director who I'd gone in for her probably 2 or 3 times before this point. And eventually I had an in-person audition with her. And I walk into the room and she goes, "Wait, I know, how are you?" And we had never seen each other in person, but because I had been auditioning for her and reaching out to her once a month, she was like, "Yeah, we pretty much know each other." And was like asking me how I was. So it's also gotten to the place where I've had huge casting offices just shoot me an email that's like, "Hey, we'd love to have you taped for this with my sides watermarked." Like, it's gotten to that place as well. So I've been very, very blessed that through the consistency of everything, I'm finding more and more that people are reaching out to me now directly. And like, I now have a voiceover agent who I love dearly. She was worth the wait. And I'll occasionally get auditions sent directly to me, and I'll send her an email like, hey, just looping you in on this. And she'll go, that's so funny. I also got that same audition for you. So like that kind of stuff is starting to happen as well. So it's been so incredible that people are just starting to think of me for stuff. And it'll be people who haven't given me an audition ever sometimes, but I've been reaching out to them for years. I have offices around the world that will be like, hey, by the way, we have this audition we think you're perfect for, but you do have to live in this place. And I'm like, well, unfortunately, I don't live in that place, but thanks for thinking of me 4 or 5 years after I started reaching out to you. Like, that's incredible.
Yes. Yeah, I do think you're very close. I could tell, like I could just tell, and I'm good at that too. So you're there. And I think that there's a couple times that are really, really super stressful. When you're first starting out and, well, I mean, we can go even way back when you're first starting out and no one's told you what to do, right?
Yeah.
Like they've told you to get an agent. So you're just sitting around your whole life waiting to get that agent. But I think once you start the process, there's that painful time where no one's answering me. It's not working. I should quit and all those things. And so you're past that now. And now you're in this thing that's like, I know I'm going to hit. When the hell is it going to happen?
What's so funny though,
Yeah.
is I'm actually going to push back against that first part because I started my career doing Valorie stuff. I'm not like the other actors that come to AFT later after starting. And I think that is truly the reason I am where I am right now. Because I, very early in my career, learned you do not need an agent to do this. And because I learned that very, very early in my career, I mean, literally like within the first year of my career, I feel like it's also set me up for success in the sense of like, I knew that it would take a few years to at least get anything. And I was getting responses right away. Like that was the one thing that I found was like, I started writing letters 2 weeks after I moved to LA. I had an audition for a lead in a feature film. It was that quickly for me. And it's really interesting because I feel like I've had a lot of those wins internally. A lot of them have not shown up externally to people, I don't think. But internally, I have been sitting on a gold mine for so many years. And it's only because of what Valorie has taught me, truly. And what you have taught me from being a little baby actor who didn't even know how to act yet. Like, I had gone to musical theater school and I didn't even know how to truly act yet. And I was doing branding exercises and figuring out what my brand was before I even left for LA. So by the time that I got to LA, I truly hit the ground running. Yeah. And that has been, I think, the most interesting part of my journey is that I'll tell people about my career and it kind of confuses them because it's like, wait, hold on. You're auditioning for really big stuff and you have no like credits or an agent or any, like, how? Because they had been told their whole career that like, oh, it's because you don't have XYZ that you can't get in with this office.
Yeah.
And just me existing proves some of that wrong. And yeah. It's very freeing to know that I can do it myself. Because like I went in, by the way, I just got commercial representation. I'm signing the paperwork next week. And they're awesome. Yeah. But I went in for like an audition with them. And there was a person in the waiting room. And they were so nervous. They were so unbelievably nervous. And they were like, I have to get this. I have to get this agent. I have to get this agent. I have to get this agent. And I am so chill. It's actually embarrassing because I don't care. Like, I know that I can get this myself. And it can be helpful to have the representation. It could be helpful for contracts and all of these different things. That's why I do an agent pitch once a year. But I'm not constantly saying, well, this is the only way I can have a career. And I basically said to this poor woman, like, hey, you can do this yourself. Like, you don't, like, she was so nervous that it was like almost a mercy to be like, it's okay. Like, you can do this by yourself and it's gonna be fine. And I told her some of the things that I had auditioned for as a way of being like, you can do this. Like, I believe in you. You're super marketable. You can do this. And she just was so confused by this idea that, like, I wasn't relying on someone else to get all that work for me.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful that I didn't have the traditional experience, because I feel like it's kept me open to doing things where, like, I get mistaken for being an agent all the time. Like, all the time. It'll be my name and my face on everything. And they will mistake me for my agent because they think that it's professional enough that they're like, close enough. Like, I don't know. It's a weird period to be in for me right now. But I think that, honestly, truly, Val, it's the way that you see business truly is like, it changed my life. Like, full stop.
Well, I just want to say you changed my life, and I think that, it's not just about what I'm saying, because I know it does work, and you are like a primo example of that, but it's also about the fact that you started doing before you got to LA, which was great, because then you weren't tainted by people telling you what you're not supposed to do, right? Because that's what really messes up actors. They walk in with a ton of baggage about what they're not supposed to do. And so I spend sometimes a year, 2 years, 3 years unpacking that bag for them, like going, no, you don't need that. No, you didn't need to bring that extra swimsuit. Like, you don't need that. So I think, like, it was good that you started before, because then you believed what I was saying wholeheartedly, and you went and did it, and it worked. It's working. Right. And so, yeah, I that's why I always wish I could get people before, but then, by the time you go to an acting school, they're going to tell you, well, the way you get an acting career is you get an agent, and then they're going to tell you this, and they're going to tell you that, not remembering that most teachers in acting schools are actors that aren't working.
Heavy on that.
Yeah.
Heavy on that.
Right? Like, I got fired from an acting school because I was working too much. Right? As an actor.
Ridiculous.
I know. Yeah. So what you're doing is like amazing. And for a lot of people on here, it sounds super brave and all of that stuff, but you have done it so yeah, you've done it so much now. It's like, it's, and that's with everything. I'm going to this, I've been going to this boot camp, right? And it's tough. Like, we're doing tough stuff, but I'm sometimes you go, I'm just going to quit. I don't want to do it anymore. But then you go, oh my God, if I stop, like last year, I moved my mom. So I wasn't going to the gym for like 3 weeks while I was moving my mom across the country. And then going back to the gym, you realize, oh my God, it was working. I was getting stronger. I was way stronger. Right. And so you got to do it. And then when it becomes second nature, and that's so great. Your bravery, 5 seconds of courage gets you a lifetime of happiness.
Yep.
That's all set for you, which will serve you so much. God forbid you're on a set and some dickwad says something to you. I just know that you would stand up for yourself in a respectful, great way.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. And something my therapist said to me that I think is so poignant here is they said that they did a bunch of research, and I don't have it up with me, so please just look it up on your own. But it was done on people who were in their last years of life. And they asked them, what are the things that you regret in your life?
And James have done this work before.
And literally, they said overwhelmingly and there were a few things here or there that they had done that they regretted. But they said that 90% of the people that they interviewed said things that they didn't do that they wish that they did. And I think about that kind of anecdote all the time. Like, truly all the time, because I feel like it especially works with our work of pitching, going after the things that you want. Sometimes in emails, I'll say, like, if I didn't pitch for this, I know I would kick myself. Because it is something for me where that is literally how I feel. I know that if I were not to pitch for this, I would regret it forever. And everyone knows that feeling, right? Like, everyone has that one thing where they're like, oh, I didn't do this and I wanted to do this so badly. If I would have just done it, I could have done it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, right? You think about that. That's the biggest regret. What if I hadn't done that? What if I hadn't taken that chance? And that's even the positive things that you did. You can look back on that and say, you know, I made that choice right there, and that made a big difference. And there's plenty of times that I've chickened out.
I mean, literally, it was right when I found out, or when I started having the PTSD episodes come up for me. I remember I was really frustrated that I wasn't doing any business. And I should have been a lot kinder to myself in that moment, because I couldn't have. I was not in the mental headspace to be doing business at that point. But I was on Instagram by chance, and I saw that a casting director was creating a database for disabled voice actors, which I haven't brought it up, but I'm a disabled woman. So having EDS and pods, it's like, okay, I fit this. I fit what they need. I use mobility aids. You know, this would be perfect for me. I'm a voice actor. So this was in 2022, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I filled it out on a whim. And I was like, well, I guess that's the only business I'm doing today. And like, I'm in other databases for like huge companies and all that kind of stuff. And like, it doesn't always pan out that anything happens, right? You just kind of sit on that database for a while. So I was thinking, this is gonna just be whatever it is. Whatever. I feel like I did nothing just now. And it has been, just being on that database, skyrocketed my auditions. And I started getting direct auditions from huge video game companies, huge places that were doing animation. And these were all the things that I wanted to be doing. And I was having a hard time finding, because especially in VO, it can be difficult to find like some of these roles without an agent, right? And it was because I was auditioning through this database so often that I was able to find like my dream agent for VO. And it was that one moment of me filling out that little database thing, thinking nothing's gonna come of this, I don't even know why I'm doing this, to I worked with Macmillan Audio and did their new narrators event and was chosen out of like 1,500 applicants to work with them and like spend time with them, figure out their systems of how they do audiobooks. It has been truly incredible. Some of my bookings have come from that database. So it has been one of those things where I thought in the moment, this is nothing, this isn't going to amount to anything. And I thank God every day now for that database, because I am now literally inching on 80 auditions this year alone. And it looks like I'm going to hit 100 by the end of July. All because I did that silly little sheet.
Wow.
You said, I mean, that like, I just want to say that I want to repeat it back because it's such a powerful statement. Right in that moment, I thought this won't amount to anything, but I did it. And this is the difference, right? Is that if we reach out, if we make a call, if we send an email, each one of them is a little thing.
Yeah.
And each one of them we could write off as this is not going to have any effect. This is right, but each tiny little thing. But the accumulation of our efforts actually leads to, as you described, the casting person saying, don't we know each other? Mm-hmm. Right? When you walk in, right? Because it is the repeated effort that accumulates our familiarity with someone.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right? 17 to 25 times, now. I mean, when I first started teaching CAD, it was like 7 to 11 times they needed to hear from you. Just in 9 years, it's gone up to 17 to 25 times, because from the moment we wake up, we're being sold to. We turn on our phone, we get in our car, whatever it is, right? So we're being sold to. And so we're on the subway, and So it really takes a lot to cut through. We just had a woman that, on the 17th outreach, she got an email back from the casting office saying, "We love your stuff. We're going to look for a part for you next season," basically. Right. And so 17 times.
Yep. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's one of those things too, is I started my career working for Disneyland at the time. And I will never forget being in the Disneyland break room, sending my emails out on my break. And this was before I had everything automated, because now I reach about 150-ish people on just that list alone, not including postcards. Yes. So now I have to have them automated. But back then, I had maybe 25 to 50 people I was reaching out to. And I just started, plugging away. And it's so interesting because there's some relationships that I auditioned for them once and they'll get my thing and be like, "Hey, you auditioned for me 7 years ago, but I love hearing your updates." Or, I blah, 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 blah. It's been so incredible to see how many people also just love hearing what's going on. I, at one point, made a clip because I had nothing to talk about. Because again, a lot of my stuff is very internal. So, it's either I do a scene or I make a clip and maybe I can talk about a podcast episode I've done, right? Or something to that effect. But sometimes I just don't have anything to talk about. And so when that happens and I have a little bit of free time, I'll make little samples of my work of oh, what would I sound like if I was doing a video game? And what would I sound like if I was doing this? So then I would go in my booth and I'd make something. And there was this one time where I decided I was going to make, this is what I would sound like in a video game. And this was pretty early in my voiceover career. And I got an email back from a very large production company that also does animation. And they were like, "Hey, so we just want to let you know that we loved that sample so much that we added it to the database we already had for you. Just so you are aware. We want for you to know this information because we liked it so much." And a way that can help is through organically reaching out on social media. And I say organically because there are sometimes you're just going to mesh with certain people in the industry that you reach out to and you're like, we have the same hobbies. We have the same things that we do. And so I know my name and my face, which is my headshot that I use on everything, is being seen by people who I reach out to all the time. Right. Mm-hmm. And part of that is just, oh, if I really like what they're doing, I'm going to like the post or I'm going to comment on it. Or, if it feels genuine and organic to me to be sharing this anecdote, then I'm going to do it. Because, that's also another reach out. And it's also not a manipulative reach out. It's me just being like, "Hey, I really love this. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen." Right? I'm not being weird. I'm not being inorganic. That is something I would say to my best friend. Right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. You really have to, and it's a love for what you're doing and a love for different things in your life.
Totally.
And yes, it's so much easier to also go after someone that you have a connection with, whether it's you met them before or you have a deep understanding of the project, it really, really well, or you've seen something that they did or where they were involved in that really moved you. And you're able to tell them that authentically because everyone can read through bull crap.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so much of it too is I also will send thank yous. I've sent so many thank yous and congratulations, but specifically the thank yous mean a lot to me because I'll find projects that speak to me in a way that I've never been spoken to before, or something has happened that way, and I will sit down and just write from my heart whatever it is that made me feel that way. There's certain movies where it's this movie saved my life and I would love to tell them how much this movie has meant to me. And then maybe at the bottom I'll say as an actor it's something that I use all the time, but the motivation isn't to be cast, right? For me, that is a moment of sheer gratitude because I kind of see it this way. There's some people, especially filmmakers, who get really stressed out when they find out that that they're casting a role or that they've already cast something, and they'll be like, "Oh, we didn't cast you for XYZ reason," right? And the way that I see it is this. if you see a role that's right for me and you don't think of me, then I'm not doing my job, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing my job. I have no pressure, really, truly, I have no pressure on whether or not you cast me or not, right? I am not terrified at the idea of, uh-oh, this person isn't casting me, am I good enough? It's more, okay, I wasn't right for that thing that they cast, right? Like, that is something that is so heavy, and now is kind of how I think about it. Back then, probably not, but now it's like, you're not always going to be right for everything, and I'm not going to like make you feel weird or bad that I wasn't cast in that one thing, because I also have so many irons in the fire that when it's time for me to be right for something, I'm going to trust that that is going to end up in my lap. I've done the work necessary for that to end up in my lap. You know what I mean?
I love that you say, if you're not one of the first people they think of, then you haven't done your job. That is exactly right. And that's really why we play the fan club game, because the definition of fan club is if they have a project you're right for, it's one of the first 10 people, you are one of the first 10 people they think of to bring in. And also you can fall off that. Like you can have a big fan club and then lose them because you don't keep up.
Hard.
Yeah, I met this guy that's been on this show on Netflix for 3 years. And then he told me this group of people used to call me in all the time, and they don't anymore. He had convinced himself that he had done something wrong. And I was like, no. Don't you get into a food or a certain song and you listen to it all the time, and then you're moving on to the next song because you've listened to that one so much? And it wasn't that it wasn't a good song and it wasn't doing a good song, and you just were ready for something different. Yeah. So if that person doesn't pop up now and then and say, I'm still here, right, then because you expect them to remember you now 2 years out, maybe they don't watch your show that you're on. So for them, they don't know you, without, and so they're going to forget, or they're going to, oh yeah, my God, how have you been? It's like when you show up again, that's the feeling, like when that song comes back on that you haven't listened to, where you're like, oh, I missed you. I love that song. Right?
It takes you back to a certain time in your life. It's so special. And like, I think, because I have a few people that have been like kind of fan club people for me. And I found that it can be really scary when they stop bringing you in, because you're like, oh crap, like what's the reason? And this actually happened to me more recently, where I just wasn't being brought in by a few particular casting offices that I had been reaching out to for a long time. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I've gone in for them so much. And a while went by, and also, like, sometimes people just aren't working. Like, truly, sometimes people just aren't working or having a hard time finding work. And I think oftentimes as actors, we don't think of it that way, because it's like, well, of course they're going to be working because they're with this company or because they're whatever. But there are certain seasons that are also just slower. Like, and that's just kind of how it is. And like, one of the people that I love dearly, who I very much consider like one of my fans, after like a year, I hadn't gotten anything from them. And they popped in one day and was like, hey, we'd love for you to read for this. And it was one of those roles, I can't say what it was, but it was one of those roles where I just sat there and tears just started running down my face. Because it was like one of those roles where I was like, I didn't even realize that I was so perfect for this. And it was such a big, I'm still trying to figure out what it was, because it was one of those like uber secret things where like I knew what they were doing, but I didn't know exactly where it was going to be. So I'm still on the lookout for it because I'm very curious. But it was one of those things where I was like, oh my God, like this is like life-changing. And I thought that I was never going to get an audition from them again. Same with another big casting office that I got an audition from, where I had seen the role posted 3 separate times. And I went, surely they're not looking for me. Surely they're not looking for me. And, there were a few logistical things about this role that made me think that it might not be. So it was more out of a place of caution. of like, okay, maybe they want this particular thing and I don't have that. And I don't want for that to be, like there was a lot of mind games, right? And it kept coming up. And I just kept like looking away from it and being like, I hope they find who they're looking for. And I think it was like 3 or 4 days later, it was like God was screaming in my face. I get an email from this casting office, big casting office, that was like, hey, we think you are so perfect for this. And it was for an Oscar award-winning director. And I thought I would never go in for this office again. Truly. I thought this office, I loved auditioning for them. It was the biggest audition of my life at that point. I think probably for the rest of my life. That audition was huge. And I was like, I don't think they're ever going to bring me in again. And they brought me in for this, and I'm thinking, surely I'm going to tape for this, and then I'm never going to hear from them again. Like, surely, I don't know what it was about this particular audition where I was just like, doubt. And I was like, I'm never going to hear from them again. Like, there's no way. I think it was like 5 months later after I had sent this tape, and I'm thinking, they've already cast someone. It's already done and dusted. I get an email that's like, thank you so much for auditioning. We're really sorry, but we're going to have to essentially drop your pin. I didn't even know I was pinned. Did not even know, because again, I'm not represented. So I had no idea that I had gone that far in the process. Within an hour, they released the cast list on deadline, which meant that I was in the final decisions for this role. And if I would have just ignored, and all of that kind of stuff, and hadn't been doing top of mind stuff, where I'd been reaching out to this office for months and years at that point. I think it'd been 2 or 3 years since I had auditioned for them. And they brought me in for that. And I got super, super close. So you never know. And you never know who's working. You never know who's not. It's truly a numbers game.
It truly is. And you, like you said, you had no idea. 5 months, and Meredith Riley Stewart always said this. She goes, if you throw a rock in a pond, you don't see the rings. You don't, so far out there, you don't see them, but they're happening, and you don't know that, but it's not going to happen if you're not throwing the rock.
Yeah, absolutely.
There've been so many times where I've coached someone and they came away saying like, I don't know, I kind of screwed it up and I came, it didn't go the way I wanted. And then I know from coaching them the quality of work they were doing. And I'm like, I hear you, take care of yourself. It's okay, and then the next day they call and say, I got it, right? Because the truth is that the other part of this is that we put ourselves into a vulnerable space,
Yeah.
right? We're being vulnerable by showing up and being present as the character, or whatever it is that we're performing, right? It takes courage, vulnerability, it takes putting ourselves out there. And so at that moment, we're not in a place to feel secure and confident, right?
Yep.
It makes total sense that we are not in that place of, I did it, right? Because often when we say, I did it, it's actually not what they wanted, because we moved to the place of celebration before we went into the place of true presence. So the question is, how do we stay in that relaxed, confident place or recover? How do we recover ourselves, right? How do we step back into our own shoes? How do we de-roll, as a friend of mine who's a psychologist says, right? How do we de-roll? How do we return to the present moment? I wanted to also, as we're approaching the full hour moment, I wanted to ask you about your music. Are you still playing? Are you singing? Like what,
Yeah. So, I haven't released anything in a really long time, and I'm thinking it's eventually time for me to do so. I originally started in musical theater, so I did a lot of that for a long time, and also R&B at the same time. I did a lot of R&B. I'm trained in riffing specifically, so a lot of that kind of stuff is very much in my wheelhouse. I'm trained in multiple styles, so I'm trained in rock, jazz, pop, musical theater, country, like a lot of different genres. And I'm also a multi-instrumentalist, so that means that I am a violinist, a drummer, a guitarist, I'm like forgetting all of them right now. Drums, guitar, pianist. I play ukulele as well, which is a little bit easier. It has its technicalities, but so I've actually considered releasing music again, for sure, and it's something that I've kind of looked back into more recently, and that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to. But what's nice about the training that I have is I'm very primed at all times to do movie musicals, and I'm primed at all times to do musicals in general. So I go in for a lot of musicals because of that and because I have that experience.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think, it's an interesting. I think there's an old story that if you're a stage actor or a musical theater actor, it won't translate into TV and film. And I think there was a time when that may have been true. And I say
Yeah.
may have been true. But it is an old story that we need to let go of,
Yeah.
because the reality now is that people who are putting themselves in front of the world,
Hmm.
we are just in a time where that translates into multiple media,
Yep.
Yes.
far beyond where we might think our little offerings, right? Our little offerings
Mhm.
actually are seen by so many people that I encourage you to include that in what you put out into the world, because we never know when that's going to be the thing that's a particular door.
It's very
Yeah.
special. I mean, that's how I got the audition for Nessa Rose. Was I had obviously musical theater, vocal music experience, and it was one of those things where my voice is perfectly in the pocket for Nessa as well. And it didn't hurt at all that I'm also an ambulatory wheelchair user. So I felt so perfect for that.
Mhm.
I feel very confident pitching for things where I need to be singing because that was what I did before I was ever an actor. So I can always come back to that and pull from that as a way of being like, no, this is where I come from. This is like the roots of where I come from. And I also think that we sing a lot more in film and TV than people realize. Like a lot more than people realize. And I think that we'll probably get more of them. I mean, just looking at history and how history usually moves through media, I would not be surprised if we see more movie musicals in the coming 5, 10 years.
I
Yeah.
agree. And also just because, you know, if you think about like the movie industry was born out of, the 30s and the depression, and a lot of it was musicals and fun stuff because we needed an escape. And
Exactly.
again, we're in this place where we need an escape, right? And so I do think that we're going to see more things like that. But even like, things like big, look at the stuff that's popular right now, like big alien movies, and things that, we've seen two amazing alien movies, and so big things, like epic things. So yeah. Oh, well, this has been amazing. Kat stopped by my mastermind a couple of weeks ago and really blew the clients' minds. They were all emailing me after you left, and they were like,
Really?
that was amazing. Thank you so much. So you're really an inspiration to me, and but to just like so many actors, that yes, it can be done. And so thank you for that. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for that. That is so kind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes. Zulima says Kat is all
Sweet,
around
sweet
great
Zulema. Thank
energy.
you.
She is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes. What a pro. Deanie. We love
Oh,
our Deanie. Yeah.
I literally became best friends with Deanie Horgan because of you, by the way. So,
Deanie Horgan was like, I just saw her when I was in London. So it was good. Hi, Deanie.
true
She's an
powerhouse.
attractor to, to people, so good.
Powerhouse.
Hmm.
Uh,
Powerhouse.
All right. Well, listen, we will see you guys all next month. And thank you so much, Kat. It was such a great conversation.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much for
Catherine.
having me.
Yes. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.